Good morning. Welcome back to A Life Worth Living. I'm Frederick Groth, and I believe that God has a plan and purpose for everyone. And I have a message of hope and truth to show you a life worth living. So this morning, Joshua 22, we're getting through it. The inheritances were all divvied up. All the tribes had received their lands, the Levites had received their cities, and it was time for Reuben and Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh to go back across the Jordan River, as they had fulfilled their promise to march with Israel until they had all received their inheritance. And so they crossed the Jordan River, going back to their lands on the other side of the Jordan, and all of a sudden the news came back to the rest of Israel. These guys are heretics. They've already built an altar. Well, they approached these men and said, "What are you doing? You've got to come over here and worship the Lord at the tabernacle." And they said, "We know, we haven't done anything wrong. We've built this altar to remind us what God has done, to remind us where to worship God, to remind us of what God has brought us through." And they called the altar Ed. Now, I didn't take the time to look up the meaning of that word, but my question for you this morning is this: do you have an Ed? Do you have something to remind you to stay focused? Do you have something to remind you that your goals are ahead of you, not behind you? Do you have something to remind you of where you're headed, of the path that you must take? We've got to have things in place that are going to remind us of who we are, what we've planned, what goals God has put into our souls. These things need to be a focus in our minds. Often we just go through life and we just drift through life as if, everything's just going to fall into our lap. Wake up. Nothing falls in our lap. We must work. We must plan. We must focus on what we want and then go after it and do what it takes to accomplish those goals. We all need an Ed. We all need a reminder to keep that which was committed into our trust. We need a reminder to make sure that we stay the course. So my question this morning is, do you have an Ed? Do you have that quote-unquote altar that's going to remind you of where God has brought you from, the goals that He's put into your soul, and where you're headed to? Now, get up and go and build you an Ed so you never forget what you're trying to accomplish. God bless you. Have an amazing day. I'll catch you next time on Life Worth Living.